Hello and welcome to the analysis of the Hindu newspaper dated January 31st, 2023. In this video, we are going to talk about two important newspaper articles which are going to be very important, very significant for the civil services examination. So let's start with the first important newspaper article. Now, this particular newspaper article is very significant for us because it talks about unemployment, it talks about the tech layoffs, how the tech companies or the big tech companies are laying off their employees, and what does it imply for us. Now, this kind of article is important for the GS paper 2, that is the effect of policies and politics of developed and developing countries on India's interest. And it is also important for the GS paper 3, that is Indian economy and issues relating to planning, mobilization of resources, growth, development and employment, right? So let's first understand the context of it, and then we will talk about the layoffs which are happening at this point of time. Now, the New York headquartered IBM became the latest to join the list of tech companies that have made large scale layoffs since the late 2022. So in late 22 there was a spree of firing the employees, and this firing of employees has been at a record number, and in IBM now they are laying off about 3,900 employees, and this comes on the heels of what has been described as the big tech midlife crisis of the clock striking midnight on the hyper growth technology giants Alphabet, which is the parent company of Google, Amazon, Meta and Microsoft have announced the slashing of thousands from their micro workforce in the last couple of months. Now, which of the companies have made the layoffs? So basically in 2022, the tech sector shed more than 150,000 jobs, with several more job cuts, over 40,000 being announced since the start of the new year. And four of the biggest tech companies, that is the Alphabet, which is the parent company for the Google, now Amazon, Microsoft and Facebook owner, that is Meta, accounted for 51,000 of the total tech layoffs announced in the last few months. And according to the consulting firm Challenger, Gray and Christmas Incorporation, tech sector layoffs in the 2020 were 649% compared to the previous year. Now this may seem like a very large figure, but let's get to the data of it. Now in 2019, we have seen that the workforce layoff, there was a hiring spree, and this led to now the saturation in the companies of the employees, and this has led to now the layoffs. Now the layoffs have been so bad that in Alphabet there was 12,000, Microsoft 10,000, Meta 11,000, and we have seen Amazon record number of 18,000 employees being fired. And if we talk about the percentage terms, then Alphabet is 6% workforce has been laid off, Microsoft 5% workforce has been laid off, Meta 13% workforce has been laid off, and Amazon 6% of its workforce has been laid off. Now what does it imply for the Indian professionals? So as per some industry insiders, between 30 to 40% of those laid off are the Indian IT professionals. Now this poses a big problem for them because they are on the and L1 visas to the America. Now what is H1B visa? H1B visa is basically a non-immigrant visa that allows US companies to employ the foreign workers, basically Indians and Chinese, in special occupations that require theoretical or technical expertise. They do not get the green card, but they are a non-immigrant visa that you are allowed to work over there in the tech companies. Now a sizable number of them are now scrambling for the options because they have been laid off. Now they have to make their ends meet, so they are searching for new jobs in the United States before their work visas expire. So this is the effect on the Indians. Now let's talk about what happened actually. So what happened is that coronavirus pandemic came about, and we have seen the rapid growth for the tech sector as work became increasingly remote, because all of these companies work on the tech, and that is why in the pandemic there was a rapid growth for the tech sector, and e-commerce grew amid lockdown across the world because everybody was buying online, and there was housebound people who spend more and more time on the online. So the companies like the Meta the Twitter got more online time and they were able to target more ad revenues, right? So this was happening at that time of the coronavirus pandemic, and riding on this accelerating growth, big tech companies and even some small ones went on a hiring spree from the start of the pandemic. Now this poses a bigger problem because coronavirus meant that all the people were at home and they were using all of the apps being built by these companies. But now that they are out of it, now the world is out of the coronavirus pandemic, now what will happen? The people will spend less of the time and the revenues of these companies will fall. Now if you see the hiring in the pandemic, then Amazon saw the most number of hiring, and then it shows the layoff. And apart from it, the Meta also shows this particular rise in the graph of hiring, and same is the case with the Alphabet and the Microsoft. And that is why at this particular point of time they are laying off these companies, they are laying off these workers which were hired because of the expansion in their revenues. Now, how huge are these big tech layoffs? So, analysts are near unanimous in saying that big tech companies are right sizing their growth instead of downsizing, because they had hired extra employees during the 2021 phase. Now they are laying the excess of the employees. It doesn't mean that they are downsizing their companies, they are right sizing their companies. And an analysis by the Washington Post notes that tech companies who hired aggressively in the pandemic, probably envisioning rapid growth to be the new normal, are now trying to shrink. They thought that this particular growth is going to be there for a very long time, but that didn't happen. As and when the pandemic ended, as and when the people were out for their jobs and doing not doing anything on the social medias, then the hyper growth basically suffered. Now the New York Times pointed out that how they only reverse a fraction of the pandemic hirings by these companies, and the Reuters analysis showed that even if all the tech companies were to cut 5% of their workforce, then the tech employment would still be at 4.2 million, which is nearly 5% larger than it was in the end of the 2019, right? So the employments have been basically positive if you compare it to the 2019, but big tech layoffs at this particular point of time are affecting the people, right? So now the question is, do the layoffs signify trouble for the tech industry? So basically, growth has indeed slowed down from the pandemic levels, as pointed out by the CEOs, and analysts also projected that the big five companies, including Apple, are headed to report dismal profits for October to December 2022 period. And analysts like Sam Amid of Guidehouse Insights told the NPR that the job cuts are a form of belt tightening meant to send a message to the shareholders at a time when the tech companies have seen their short stock prices plunge. And these companies are looking to reduce the operational cost at this particular point of time. And apart from it, moreover, these companies have been made more significant investments in the recent past, especially in the artificial intelligence driven tech. For instance, the Microsoft has invested some of its capital into the chat gpt, which is basically an AI based chat bot, right? So this is all about the layoffs. Now now we can say that some of the labor markets have or the labor market of the US is basically strong according to them, according to the Fed's data, and the labor market has remained resilient despite the Fed's aggressive measures to bring down inflation. And analysts point out that the tech companies represent about 2% of all employment in the country, compared to the large sectors which are still hiring at this particular point of time. So the US has to say that their growth is very robust, and the layoffs are not happening at the pace at which it is being shown in the media houses, right? So this is it regarding this particular newspaper article, and let's now head to the next important newspaper article. Now this particular newspaper article talks about the fact that center is now going to roll out to set up 16th Finance Commission. We have seen the 15th Finance Commission earlier. Now the 16th Finance Commission is going to be brought forward. Now these kind of articles are important for the Indian economies and issues relating to planning, mobilization of resources, growth, development and employment. First we will understand the concept regarding it, context regarding it. Then we will look forward to what is Finance Commission, what was 15th Finance Commission, right? So now the Union government will soon kick off the process to set up the 16th Finance Commission, with the Finance Ministry likely to notify the terms of reference for the constitutional body. Now Finance Commission is basically a constitutional body established by the Finance Act, right? And it is tasked with the recommending the revenue sharing formula between the center and the states. It decides what kind of revenues are going to be shared between the center and the states, right? So let's talk about what was 15th Finance Commission. So 15th Finance Commission was basically set up in the November 2017 with a mandate to make recommendations for the 5-year period from 2020 to 2021. But this particular thing was extended, and the 15th Finance Commission's mandate was extended by a year till 2025 to 2026, which broke the cycle of making the Finance Commission every 5 years, right? So now what is Finance Commission? Finance Commission is a constitutional body established under the Finance Act that determines the method and formula for distributing the tax proceeds between the center and the states. Whatever the tax proceeds are going to be, they are going to be shared between the state and the center, right? And this particular Finance Commission is basically is formed under the Article 280 of the Constitution. So the Prime President of India is required to constitute a Finance Commission at an interval of 5 years or earlier, right? So if we talk about the members of them, then there's a chairman or chairperson, you can say, and there are 4 members. Now this is what is known as Finance Commission, and they will define what kind of revenue sharing is going to happen between the states and the center, states and the states, right? You basically got it, right? So what are the functions of the Finance Commission? So the next net tax proceeds distribution to be divided between the center and the states, and the allocation of the same between the states is going to be defined by the Finance Commission. The principles governing the grants and rates to the states by the center out of the Consolidated Fund of India, that is CFI, is also going to be determined. The steps required to extend the Consolidated Fund of a state to boost the resources of the panchayats and municipalities of the state on the basis of recommendations made by the State Finance Commission is also going to be decided. So at the panchayat level also, revenue sharing model is also defined by the Finance Commission. Now any other matter referred to it by the President in the interest of the sound finance is also basically done by the Finance Commission. Now the Commission decides the basis for sharing the divisible taxes by the center and the states, and the principles that govern grants in its to the center every 5 years. And any matter in interest of the sound finance may be referred by the Commission to the Commission by the President, and the Commission's recommendations along with the explanatory memorandum with regard to the actions done by the government on them are laid before the houses of the Parliament. And apart from it, there are various functions, but these are the main functions, and the basic main function is to divide the revenue between the center and the states and allocate all of the revenues which are basically distributed to the states according to the needs of the states, right? So these are the functions of the Finance Commission. Now there lies a challenge for the 16th Finance Commission, which is going to be formulated. What is the key challenge? Key challenge is that there is an extra constitutional body, or there is a permanent constitutional body, that is the GST Council, which also looks into the revenues of the states or determines the tax rate changes. Now earlier what happened is that the Finance Commission used to decide the changes in the tax rates. Now at this particular point of time, Finance Commission needs to work with the GST Council in order to determine that particular revenue sharing model or the tax rate changes, right? So this is the basic challenge for the 16th Finance Commission. We will see forward how it works very fine with the GST Council, or does it have any kind of differences with the GST Council. So this is it regarding this particular newspaper article, and this is it for the day. Thank you from my side. Do like and share the video and subscribe to this channel. Have a good day. Bye.